Creative brilliance without rigor is like water with no vessel. It spills everywhere. So how this looks for multi-passionate creatives is you're always starting and stopping projects. You have endless ideas, but none of them are fully realized. And you feel scattered and frustrated despite how talented you know you are. We've been conditioned to romanticize a sense of creative chaos. But what if rigor is the real portal to explore your creative potential? So today I want to show you why multi-passionate creatives need this sense of rigor, not hustle, in order to thrive. And so if you're new here, my name's Kev. I help ambitious creatives get out of their heads and into their bodies. So let's just start with the lie that rigor is a sense of restriction, right? Many creatives believe that rigor and structure and discipline kill creativity. That this sense of discipline is a cage, and that structure is ultimately going to dull the flame of your inspiration and creativity, because we're just taught to flow as creatives, right? And it's not wrong, right? You know, we had an education system that maybe put too much structure or didn't structure it in a way that really celebrated creative flow. You know, so we had these schedules and it just didn't quite feel right. And then hustle culture turned a sense of discipline into how extreme can you get, and then you burn out, right? And then not to mention that our strategic culture tends to reward performance rather than presence. All of these are working against us as creatives who want to truly impact the world through our creativity, but also do it in a way that feels aligned and consistent, right? So just explore what happens in your body when you hear words like rigor, discipline, and structure, you know? Do you turn your head? Do you roll your eyes? For many, it's a sense of contraction, right? And I know it was for me for so fucking long. But that's because we've only really ever known these kind of unhealthy, undeveloped, and I would even say to some degree toxic versions of discipline, right? But I want to flip the script and really reframe rigor as devotion, not as a sense of restriction, right? Rigor isn't about control, right? It's about devotion. It's the spine that really holds your creative body upright. It's the clear container and ritual that you center yourself around so that your creativity has this consistent, fertile soil to root into and to grow from. So we need to distinguish between the rigor that we're exposed to with the hustle culture, which is pressure, urgency, and needing to prove something, to this sacred rigor that is coming from a deep place inside of you that knows, I need both flow and structure to succeed. And that is consistency rooted in a sense of truth and authenticity, right? It's a structure that protects your genius and allows more of it to come out, not squeezes it out because you got to prove something to the world, right? So think of a sense of rigor as giving your creativity a consistent somewhere to land. I don't know what that somewhere is for you, but without it, your brilliance just leaks and evaporates. It's not poured meaningfully into a direction that's going to bear fruit, right? Let's say you just throw handfuls of seeds in raised bed gardens, right? Beautiful. You've created a container, right? But if you walk into your garden and you just turn the hose on and you're watering everywhere, you're watering the ground, and some of it makes it in that container, I mean, what good is it if you're not actually intentionally, no, this is the container, this is where the seeds are, I'm going to water this every day. Not, I feel like watering, the weeds over there in that corner, right? I know it's a silly example, but this is how we can be with our creative energy. We're just leaky. We're not directional with it. And don't get me started about how this goes even deeper, Sign up for my newsletter if you want the real deep juice about where this originates. But I want to help you reframe structure and rigor as a practice of really loving your creativity, right? Of showing up for your art consistently, not focusing on performing for any sort of external metrics, right? When we can create that clear container and water it, we are loving it consistently. That gives a whole new embodied sort of heart-forward approach to what it means to tend to your creativity, to structure your creativity, right? So for me, I was just so flow my whole life, It's like anything that had to do with structure and discipline, I didn't want to touch it with a 39.5-foot pole, right? Yet I wondered why I was always bonking my head on the kind of small story and container that I created for myself. I yearned for something more, for more impact, more responsibility, more depth, more leadership, more money, yet found myself limited because flow can only take you to the surfaces of the places you discover. But rigor and structure helps you go deeper, which means the way that's going to translate is it's going to take everything to a fullness where you can expand and grow into, versus flow is just like traveling the world and never staying in a place for more than a week. But rigor is, I want to serve and love this community for a year. I'm going to go as deep as I can. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what types of opportunities and people you're going to magnetize in each places, right? This is all about creating depth, creating a container and structure so that your creativity has enough time and space to grow into something fruitful, right? For me, it was finally rooting deeply in community and giving my gift consistently every single fucking day, right? I literally sat down for a year and wrote a blog post that was over 1,000 words almost every single day because I needed that structure. I needed a firm container to be able to pour my love into. And it was not even in that year, I didn't even see, quote, results. It took longer, but from that place, I showed myself what becomes available when I have a practice, when I have consistency, when my creativity and my nervous system can depend on every morning at 9, I'm going to be able to move through me what wants to move through me. And by golly, if nothing moves through me, I'm just going to sit there for an hour. I'm just going to be present. So here's how I want you to be experimenting with this concept, right? Create a sense of ritualized creative container for yourself. That could mean block out a non-negotiable time that works in your schedule. Some people might be able to do this every morning for an hour before they go to their 9 to 5. Others might be, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, I can give it 2 hours. Great. Focus on that, commit to that, write it in your calendar, and give yourself 6 months of creative rigor, showing up for yourself with love and consistency, and track what happens. And then once you get that down, you start to feel into bigger patterns, right? What's a seasonal rigor? Because it's not always time to go 150%, right? You need to allow your creativity to adapt to seasons and things, for sure. But when is a season when I can really shift my form of structure, really amp it up to like, I'm feeling alive this season, I'm in spring, I'm in summer, whatever it is, I'm going to amp it up and I'm going to expand my schedule to maybe winter. What's a different structure? What's a structure that allows it to be more slow and drawn out and deeper, right? How can I devote 4 months, 6 months to this container that feels right? And most importantly is kind of developing a nervous system friendly approach, because this is not about hustling and burning out. This is about creating a system that supports your body and your nervous system, brings you to your edge, but doesn't overwhelm you to the point to where you avoid it and you resist it and you resent your structure, right? You'll know you've found that right place of structure when you can still relax your body into it, not brace against it. You can think of it like a yoga pose. When you're doing yoga or stretching, you'll find your edge where it's going to be hard to breathe, and then you just back off just a little bit so you can breathe and relax and soften. And what that does is it actually helps you to go deeper into it, to where you stretch that edge even more. So whether that's starting with something that's once, twice a week, or every day if you have the time and space, and relaxing into it, becoming consistent with your practice, and then expanding from there, tuning into, is this too much? Is this too little? Am I hiding inside of this? All of these can be cues inside of your body. So find that edge and back off just a little tiny bit so that you can then soften into the edge versus brace into it, right? So this is going to be extremely helpful for you if you've been relying on inspiration instead of structure, If you've been relying on needing motivation instead of a clear containment for your creativity. So my question to you is, what would change if you treated rigor, structure, and discipline more as a sense of devotion and a sense of lovemaking to your craft, right? Rigor isn't something that limits your freedom. That's the toxic, undeveloped versions. But a sense of deeply connected structure is what amplifies your creativity and is what's going to take your business, your expression, and your impact to the next level. It's what allows your genius to really mature, right? So, your brilliance is sacred, and what's going to really contain that and amplify it and help you honor it is your rigor. So ditch the hustle, ditch the burnout, but double down on this sort of deeper devotion and containment for your craft and see what happens in 3, 6, 12 months, right? And if you want help facilitating that, I invite you to check out the Embodied Creator Toolkit. The link's in the description below. Everything you need to run the experiments to really get on a deeper track with giving your gifts to the world. And sign up to my free newsletter where every week you get stories sent straight to your inbox. And subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.